Hello, everyone. Roger once again here with Creating with Your Spiritual Universe, CWYSU.com. And again, that's CWYSU.com. You can catch us on Facebook by the same name. Visit our website, inquire of our services there if you're guided to as well. And today, I want to talk about spirituality. What is spirituality? Because in my journey, I found that it is one of those subjects that is just thrown out there, or someone will say I'm spiritual, and it will have different meanings. Not that many meanings, but it will mean generally it means someone is following a particular belief system or practice in their life. And so, the inquiry usually is, how do you view spirituality? What do you mean by that? What religion are you a part of? And it usually goes down around those lines. And I thought about this question and really contemplated this question for a while, and I said, that that definition or that way of going about what spirituality means, there is something lacking within it. It's not that it's wrong, but it's not complete. Let's just say that. It's not complete. So I sat there and I thought, well, thinking about polarity and thinking about vibration and thinking about the dense and the not dense, I came up with what my definition, and you don't have to adopt it, you don't have to agree with it. Take what serves you, leave what doesn't. But I thought, because the first thing I do, first of all, is when I get into something or I find something out, the first thing I try to do is debunk it, including and especially my own stuff. So I've been trying to debunk this and even running it by people, and no one's been able to really debunk it or to point out some flaws that need, to be refined, or that would cause the whole theory to just have to be tossed in the trash. So let's get right to it. Here's my definition of spirituality. First of all, let's talk about what it's not. It has nothing to do with any religion. It has nothing to do with any belief system. Nothing to do with anything other than these simple tenets that I'm about to talk about. The first thing I want to say is the spirituality is just the polar spectrum, or if we draw a line from left to right, the right would be the spiritual, and the left would be the physical. That's all it is. Different shades and distinctions between what is physical and what is not physical. That's all spirituality is. So now that I've just made it simple, let's go into a little bit in depth about breaking that down a little bit. So on let's just say the left side of the scale, towards the physical realm of the scale, you've got density. So let's speak in terms of density and vibration. And vibration is simply the oscillation, this motion of an object. And the faster it oscillates, the less dense it is, and the slower it oscillates, the less dense it is. Like our bodies is very dense, right? Our physical aspects very dense because we can see it. So when we're on the most physical aspects of reality, that tends to be the most dense aspect. And when we're on the most spiritual, it becomes, let's just say, less dense. Less dense. So on the most dense aspects of existence, which exists in the third density. The third density, not to be confused with the third dimension. They're two different things, but we won't go into that. I'll talk dimensions another time. In the third density, this is the most dense of realities, okay? The most physical of realities. Your body is most dense. I'm sitting on a log out here in the wood. I don't know if you can hear me tapping on it. That's the most dense. You can see the trees, really dense, right? Really physical in nature. And then as you move along towards the less dense, you might run into, let's say, an element, the element of water, that has an amount of density in it, but not as much as, say, the element of let's say, wood or even your body. Then as you go on a little bit further, you have air. You can feel air if it's being carried at a pace. If it's really still, you really have to, maybe wave your hand to feel the air. You're talking about less density there. And then further up the scale, you have emotions. Now, let's talk in terms of our senses. The more dense, the more of these senses that you use. Your eyes, your nose, the sense of physical tasting, smelling, feeling, or touching. Let's just put them in the same category, feeling or touching. You can touch it and you can feel it. And then as you go further, these physical senses, eyes, ears, nose, taste, sensation, become less useful. In other words, they become less effective at detecting things. And then if you go further into less density, past emotions. Emotions have a density because you can, as long as you can detect them with any of the 5 common senses, they are in the realm of the dense of the physical. Let's just say that based on my definition here. The farther up you go, you are not able to touch, see, smell, hear, taste, up in that higher realm of density, up into the higher realms. I'm going to go off the camera here. Up into the higher realms, or the less dense realms. For that, you need the counterparts of the physical. You need to be able to see with the inner eye, hear with the inner ear, smell with the inner nose, and to be able to taste with the inner tasting capabilities, and to be able to see and feel with your clairsentience. And we usually refer to those. What is that? Okay, just a plant touching me. How's it going, buddy? Here it is right here. You need to have those inner senses activated. So when you have the 5 for the physical and the 5 for the not so physical activated, then you are functioning with your 10 senses. So now you can not only detect very easily what is physical, but you can detect very easily what is not so physical, what is less dense. Why is this important? This is important because there are beings that exist in that less dense reality, and if we can see and we can feel, not just see, because you need to use all of the other senses as well. A lot of people put a lot of emphasis in seeing, and if all you can do is see into that other realm, your sense of seeing can be tricked. But if you are using a combination of all of your senses, your clair senses, we say clair because it's more clear up in the less dense realm, more transparent, and less easy to detect with these eyes, these senses, if you do not have the other ones activated. So it's important to work on yourself. How do you activate them? You work on yourself to activate those senses, because This reality doesn't want you to be able to detect and see those higher realms, because those that can see those higher realms can see what is going on and can take action to calibrate, counteract, or be in line with things that are suitable for them. That means that you cannot be controlled. That means that things cannot be done in secret. That means that someone who is deceptive can walk in front of you and you can see past and you can see the energy that they're carrying, because you're able to see not just in one spectrum, but in all spectrums. You can see people who are benevolent, who are kind and loving, because you're able to read their energy. You're able to sense what's coming from them. You're able to feel energetic instruments or implants or beings passing near you or touching you, because you have those clear senses activated. It makes you more powerful, more in control, and more of a complete being in being able to take action and control of your reality. So what is spirituality? Spirituality is simply the difference between the physical and the not so physical. That's it. And I kind of went, talked about the importance of knowing that. I've talked about the importance of being in touch with all aspects of you, who you are. Because here's the other important thing. You exist in many dimensions and many densities. So the aspect of you that is known as, say, the higher self or the deep self, or the sovereign core of your inner being, exists on that end of the spectrum, while the physical aspects exist down in the spectrum, and everything else in between, every one of your aspects in between as well. That's why it's very important to remember that as above, so below. As below, so above. As within, so without. And everywhere else in between. Because it is it's in between that we get bogged down. So if you embrace that there is an in between, even if you don't have any of your clearances, you can't see into the less dense realities, or you can't hear, or you don't have any of your clear senses going, no problem. Just start to trust that they exist, because they do. And many of us travel along that spectrum all of the time. And once you start being curious and asking questions from within, you'll start seeing signs. Okay? And the biggest thing that I'm gonna ask that you do when you start seeing signs, well, to start really seeing signs, is do not put any restrictions as to how the messages come, how the signs come. Your spirit might send it through a big billboard while you're driving down the freeway. Might send it through the radio when you're in your car and listening to the radio. Might send it through a YouTube video. Might send it through a conversation that you heard sitting next to someone at a restaurant or walking down the street. So once you start to really, really, really in earnest, even if you don't know, don't ever let not knowing become a problem for you. Never let not knowing. Just go, I'm going to stay in the space that if I don't know right now, I'm trusting that my spirit, my guides, will bring to me the answers. And I'm not going to make it hard on them as to how they need to communicate with me. I'm going to be the type of person, this is what I'm just recommending, I'm going to be the type of person that's going to be open to information in the way that it can best be brought to me. Okay? So to summarize again, spirituality is simply the difference between the physical and the non-physical. Okay? It has nothing to do with any belief systems, religions, ritualistic behavior, ceremonies, or anything of that nature. We are all spiritual beings. We exist in all realities and in multiple dimensions. Okay? Thank you so much for listening. And remember to defy the taboo against finding out who you are.